From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 41 of Fans Talk Lucha. This week on Lucha Underground, we got more advancement in the tournament to decide who will become the new Gift of the Gods champion. We also got a little bit more in depth with the feud that is really starting to brew between Katrina and Daria Cueto, and more importantly, Mil and Matanza. So, my name is Garvin, and on this week's episode, we're going to recap and react to Lucha Underground Season 2, Episode 14. Quick shout out to everyone in the live chat. For this, again, we record every episode live on our Mixlr channel. So all that information is posted in the Slack channel. If you'd like to take a part in it, all you have to do is become a member of the Squared Circle of Trust over at squaredcircleoftrust.com. So this week, let's just get right into it, guys. I mean, this was by far one of the better episodes in general for Lucha Underground. You know, it's if you're a listener of the main podcast, we talked a little bit about NXT, and I know this is a little off topic to start off with, but you know, one of the things is, you know, we've put so much. So many expectations on NXT, and when we have like a show that isn't up to par to those expectations, it gets kind of disappointing. There have been a few episodes like that of Lucha Underground, but this was the complete opposite. We got so many good matches, so many more. As far as the development of the stories, whether it's Katrina and Cueto, Mil, Matanza, Marty the Moth and Mariposa versus the Mac and Sexy Star. We also saw Famous B get involved. We also saw King Cuerno get involved as far as his involvement in the Katrina Mil Muertes storyline. Just so many good things. So let's just get right into it. We started off with a backstage segment between Katrina, and Dario Cueto. Katrina basically caught Cueto digging through the ceiling. He had some ceiling tiles removed from his office, searching for something. So she caught him doing that. He, quickly puts the ceiling tiles back in, walks back to his desk to talk to her. And you know, ultimately she wanted a rematch between Mil and Matanza because, you know, Matanza still had the title. Mil needs that title, you know, and ultimately Katrina needs that title to really take over as this power that she believes she is. You know, both basically threw jabs back and forth, you know, with the suggestion that fear isn't in the equation, for either guy. And, you know, Cueto is okay with it. Cueto is okay with granting the rematch, but he puts it into a grave consequences match. Grave consequences is Lucha Underground's variation of the casket match. She agrees. It's booked next week. However, because she was so quick to accept that match, Cueto raises the stakes and he puts 4 coffins at ringside. Not just the one coffin, but 4 coffins. He calls it graver consequences. And this is really interesting of where this could go. You know, theoretically, one of those would go to the loser. So either Meal or Matanza. If Meal is the loser, you could put Katrina and the remaining disciple into two of the other coffins, but we still have one other coffin. I'm not sure exactly what is really going to come of this. It's really strange. So 4 coffins, 4 caskets. I don't know what direction they could go into because, Meal, obviously, he only has Katrina and a disciple. So is that suggesting that one of the coffins would go to Cueto potentially? And if Matanza loses, that's just 2. That's Matanza and Cueto. So, I have no idea. I have no idea what the necessity of the 4 coffins could be. 3 coffins make sense. 4 does not as of this point. I'm unsure what direction they could really go if they are intent on filling all 4 coffins. But we'll see. We'll see next week. That's pretty much the main event for next week. Probably one of the only matches that will take place. Next up was Marty the Moth versus the Mac. It was a match with an award of the Ancient Aztec Medallion. Overall, very stiff match, very good match considering the storyline that these two have been involved in. Marty obviously had some offense in there. Mac, though, definitely destroyed Marty, at least in the immediate sense. We'll talk a bit about that later on, as it didn't quite end here. But the Mac wins. Mac is now in the Gift of the Gods tournament, as far as in that finals match. So that gives us Aerostar, Tejano, Cage, and the Mac. But it was a very good match. Definitely something you should check out. If you're, I do know that Lucha Underground does release some videos, of matches, full matches on their YouTube channel. If this one is available, I would definitely check it out if you're interested in the whole saga between Sexy Star and Mariposa, Marty the Moth and Mac. Backstage, we had another segment with Katrina. She was confronting King Cuerno, who obviously was backstage, maybe preparing for a match. That match didn't happen, spoilers. But she basically says that Mill will win the title back against Matanza next week. And she needs to make sure that happens. But she's not going to put her trust in King Cuerno. She's going to put her trust in El Siniestro de la Muerte, which is the last remaining disciple. And he will be in charge of ensuring Mill's victory. Cuerno questions your choice, obviously. Not necessarily because he feels like he owes anything to Mill, but apparently we've got King Cuerno versus El Siniestro de la Muerte next week for a Gift of the Gods tournament. So for one of those ancient Aztec medallions. So and then he goes on to predict that not only will he win that, thus ensuring himself a potential shot at the Lucha Underground Championship, but he also predicted that he would win, thus becoming number 1 contender for the title. But if Mill wins, that's best case scenario for him because he will defeat Mill and take the title. I don't believe that. I don't know what you guys think. I just cannot see King Cuerno being put up at that level, not especially against guys like Cage specifically. I mean, I think Cage is the only guy that would really stand in his way. Cuerno could get over on Aerostar. Tejano is still like this unknown right now, but I definitely don't see Cuerno earning that title shot. At least not in this tournament. Maybe afterwards, like previously. I think it was I could be wrong, but I think it was Phoenix held the title. Cuerno defeated him to take that title briefly, and that's the only way. That's the only way that I see King Cuerno being put in that spot. But overall, just this ongoing battle between Neil and Cuerno and Katrina, it's a very interesting storyline. I'm really interested to see how this carries through, as we get to the, finals of this tournament. Also backstage, we had Cueto talking to Sexy Star. And, he made reference to something that commentary really hasn't yet. Like, commentary is still unknowing of what happened between Mariposa and Sexy Star. He's obviously aware that she has done something to her, specifically caused her pain, just by looking at how Sexy Star looks at Mariposa, as well as how Sexy Star looks in general. What she is showing in her eyes. He's obviously very aware of that, and she's not shying away from that acknowledgement. I mean, she acknowledges that, yes, Mariposa did, put her through some kind of pain or some kind of trouble. And, Cueto, Cueto being the great manager that he is, the great, inspiration guy and motivator that he is, basically gave Sexy Star a match. Sexy Star versus Mariposa. Not only would an ancient Aztec medallion be put on the line, but it would also be in a no mas match. So, variation of the I Quit match. You just have to have your opponent say out loud no mas, and that's it. That's the match. So he books that, but he also gives her the opportunity, if she accepts, to not just defeat Mariposa, not just get her to say no mas, but continue the punishment and get her retribution, which is great. It was an awesome offer. Sexy Star, it's one of those things where it's hard to determine, what is a real face move, at least nowadays. I mean, historically, a face would say, no, I don't necessarily want retribution, winning the title, winning the Aztec medallion and this match is enough. But she accepts the premise that, if she wins, after she forces, Mariposa to say no mas, that she's going to continue to cause damage and get that retribution. So it should be interesting. Should be interesting to see. And obviously we did. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on, but, it definitely was like it was a nice touch there by Cueto. Later on, after a commercial break, we had another Dario Cueto, segment. He was backstage doing paperwork, I guess. And he was interrupted by Chavo. Chavo, who I have no interest in seeing. Chavo, who many of us have no interest in seeing. And obviously here, Cueto had no interest in seeing Chavo. Chavo basically came in saying, where is my match for one of the ancient Aztec medallions? And rightfully so, Cueto was very adamant that, he didn't consider Chavo for that match because he doesn't deserve it. That's, that is win territory for me. No, Chavo does not deserve it. Chavo is a waste. He has been a waste for so many years, regardless of what company he's been in, whether it's TNA, WWE, and Lucha Underground. According to their story, he is, pretty worthless. And, Cueto harps on him about it. Why would Cueto give him an opportunity for an ancient Aztec medallion when every opportunity that Cueto has given him, he has lost? He has lost every single big match. And yeah, so totally in agreement. Chavo, though, as he exits, says that he will seize the opportunity tonight. So we go into our next match. This being a match for one of the ancient Aztec medallions. Famous B interrupts Melissa Del Santos, and basically, says, "Hey, my phones have been lit. Everyone wants to be famous," and he's got a new client who he's going to introduce right now, accompanied by Brenda, is Mascarita Sagrada. So, we knew this was coming. I knew this was coming, talking to Nick and Joe over on Fans Talk Pro Wrestling. It seemed to be the idea that they thought as far as who would be that first client. So yeah, overall good. It was a good move. I'm enjoying this. It's definitely joke character territory, but it's, something like that is needed every once in a while. You need like a little break from the drama that you're getting from Cueto and Katrina, or Mil and Matanza, or Marty the Moth and the Mac, Sexy Star and Mariposa. I mean, there's a lot of drama involved in what we see. So to have like a little sideshow here, with Famous B and Mascarita Sagrada, I think is good. It's a good break from everything else. So Mascarita Sagrada is in a match for an ancient Aztec medallion. However, and I don't necessarily get this, and the commentary team was kind of confused as well, but his opponent was Cage. So apparently Cage put his ancient Aztec medallion, the one that he won off of Johnny Mundo, on the line, to go against Mascarita Sagrada. And it was a squash match, as squash matches go. I mean, Mascarita showed that he wanted nothing really to do with Cage. Famous B believed in him, continued to, pump him up on the outside. We saw some good action, I guess, from Mascaritas, but it wasn't, there was no believable way that Cage would lose at this point during this time period of just Cage's momentum that he has been carrying over the last few months. There's no way. There's no way he was going to win. And yeah, Cage hit this F5 type throw. Mascaritas landed on his back. And yeah, that was it. That was the match. It was less than 2 minutes maybe. But Cage retains his ancient Aztec medallion. So again, just going over who is currently involved in the Gift of the Gods tournament. We've got Cage versus Mac versus versus Tejano versus Aerostar. That's who we have right now. However, and I almost skipped over this. After the match, while Cage is kind of apologetic to Famous B and saying, he didn't necessarily want this, and he's sorry that this had to take place. But Chavo ran down, seized his opportunity, stole the ancient Aztec medallion from the ref, and ran with it. So Chavo now controls that ancient Aztec medallion. Cage obviously chased after him, but we really did not see a conclusion to that. So maybe next week we'll get that. Maybe this will lead to a Cage versus Chavo match to determine who is the rightful owner of the ancient Aztec medallion. But that's where we stand right now. So potentially Chavo is in the tournament now. But, for all intents and purposes, I'm moving forward with the belief and want that Cage is in there, because for me, Cage is the favorite to walk out of, the Gift of the Gods finals match as your champion. And we go right into our next matchup, the main event, Mariposa versus Sexy Star in a no mas match with an ancient Aztec medallion on the line. And I'm just going to quickly jump into wins, the win-fail area of this podcast. The win is this match. This match was so good, and the story that was told so compelling. This was fantastic. And again, it shows how Lucha Underground is trying to push that envelope and trying to do things that other companies haven't yet gone to. The depths that they are willing to go to tell a good story, have a good wrestling match involved, and really cross those barriers. So, again, one of those barriers, blood. Blood was involved in this match. And, Ishmael in the live chat saying this was the first time that he can really remember seeing a woman wrestler bleed in the ring since Roxy and TNA. I'm with you, Ishmael. I don't remember seeing blood at all from any of the women's divisions or women competitors. And this added so much to the story. This added so much to how important this was for Sexy Star. And, it really drove home the pain that she went through, not just under the control of Mariposa and Marty the Moth, but the pain that she had to go through in this match to get that redemption, get through, get that, the end goal of it, which is the Aztec, medallion. So, great match. Overall, fantastic story. We saw it go back and forth with Mariposa starting off, getting a lot of the action. Sexy Star, took over, a lot of back and forth. Chairs were involved. We saw Mariposa drag Sexy Star back first up the stairs, and then started to dig away and try to rip away the mask to show her disrespect for Sexy Star. The mask didn't come off, but we did see once they got, so it went from the stairs through the crowd on top of Cueto's office. Sexy Star then climbed up the scaffolding to get up to the catwalk. The fight continued there. That's where Sexy Star was opened up, from her head. I'm assuming it was from her forehead. It was, she's wearing a mask. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell where that blood was coming from, but, overall, that added so much to this story and this feud. And Sexy Star was able to escape, went back on top of Cueto's office. Marty the Moth got involved. Matt got involved. It got taken to the ring. Marty the Moth once again got involved. And it wasn't just distraction that he was trying to cause. He physically got involved with Sexy Star and delivered some punishment to her, whether it was the double axe handle across the back or, he was definitely trying to hurt Sexy Star to make sure that Mariposa, was able to win. Again, some great stuff on the outside. Another great spot was when Mariposa had, Sexy Star by the legs and midsection and just swung her head first into the commentary booth 3 times. That on top of the blood that was already there, just showing that they're both going all out to try and defeat the other. It was so good. The other barrier that Lucha Underground is okay crossing is not just on the blood side, but also on the language side. And so they're very adamant at, they're very involved in what the crowd is doing. And, when the crowd starts chanting holy shit, that is aired. And they reference it and they say that is one and the same with Lucha Underground. That is like the 2 words that best describe Lucha Underground. So they're definitely taking ownership of that. But in the ring, and again, I'm okay with censored language. As I'm getting older, I'd rather people not be swearing on TV all the time. That's definitely like old man syndrome. But this occurrence of it was so good. And that was basically, Sexy Star was in a submission hold. And when she was asked by the referee whether or not she quit, whether or not she wanted to say no mas, she straight up told the ref, and you heard it on mic, and the crowd went crazy over it. She said, "Fuck you." And she followed it up with a "fuck you, Mariposa." So again, based on the heat that these two have against one another, and based on the story that they're telling, the blood and that particular moment, so good. So good. The match ended shortly after that. We did see the Mac get involved again. We saw Marty the Moth get involved again, but the match ended when Sexy Star finally was able to put Mariposa in a cross arm breaker, or a cross arm bar rather. She won. Mariposa said no mas. The match was over. The ref tried to break Sexy Star away from Mariposa and to break that hold. Sexy Star went off on the ref, basically taking the liberty and the freedom that Cuerno gave to her to not only push the ref away, but to continue delivering the punishment to Mariposa to get that redemption. It was good. It was such a good match, such a good story. Definitely up there with, say, your Phoenix versus Meal in the Grave Consequences match, or pretty much any of their big matches. This definitely goes up there as far as the story that they're telling, as far as the action that we saw, and just the involvement of blood and the language. That does add to it. It makes it feel more serious. It makes it feel more important. So definitely props go to Lucha Underground, Sexy Star, and Mariposa for making this happen. It was so good. That takes us basically to where we stand right now with the Gift of the Gods tournament. The finals match as it stands right now is Cage or Chavo, depending. The Mac, Sexy Star, Tejano, Aerostar, and the winner of King Cuerno versus El Sinestro de la Muerte, which is happening next week. That is your finals match, but that's only 6 people. There's 7 medallions, so there's room for one more. It's kind of hard to tell, who would go up for that. The only name that I think really makes sense at this point is Phoenix. We haven't seen Phoenix since the Trios tournament finals. He seemed really out of place there, alongside PJ Black and Jack Evans. And really, being the previous winner of the Gift of the Gods, championship, you have to almost expect Phoenix to be that guy. So that's what I'm expecting. What are you expecting? Are you expecting someone else to fill in that role? We also have, as far as who else is available, you have, the members of the crew. You have maybe, Son of Havoc going on a singles run. I think that's quite possible as well. And then obviously Jack Evans, PJ Black. Those are other guys that could definitely go there. So, should be interesting. Should be interesting to see who is put into that final match. Maybe it's a Royal Rumble type over the top challenge type thing. That's possible as well. Joey Ryan is another guy that could, go up against there. So I could definitely see that, but I'm predicting at least that Phoenix is the guy that moves forward. And that was it. That was this week on Lucha Underground. Want to remind you, this episode of Fans Talk Lucha This episode of Fans Talk Lucha has been brought to you by our great members of our community, the Squared Circle of Trust. Shout outs again to Ishmael, who has joined us in the live chat today. Ultimately, because of your help, we are able to continue to afford what we do here. Whether it's, hosting our domains, hosting the MP3s that you guys download, distributing the content the way we do. And really, it motivates us. The help that we're getting through our Patreon subscription is motivating us to keep doing this each and every week. So if you haven't started supporting us in this way, you should, consider it. Maybe do a month, or two, or see where things go. $1 a month or more. If you pledge $1 a month or more, you get early access to content just like this. $3 or more. That's one of our tiers. That gives you access to the live chat and the live audio. And then $5 more, we do some exclusive audio, the Squared Circle of Trust exclusive audio. We try to release it at least twice a month, but that is sometimes a little bit more random, sometimes not necessarily wrestling related, but it's a good time overall. So if you haven't pledged, do so now, squaredcircleoftrust.com. That'll take you to our Patreon page where you can subscribe today. So let's get into wins and fails. Obviously, my win is Sexy Star versus Mariposa. That match was fantastic. Ishmael in the live chat is echoing that. Ishmael is pointing out just, especially the point where Sexy Star dropped the F-bomb. I agree. I think that added so much to the match, just like the blood did. Everything was just so fantastic. Fails, though? I really cannot think of a fail outside of Chavo being back. I think that's a quality fail. That's the only thing I have. The fact that he stole Cage's medallion. Are we going to get Cage versus Chavo for the rightful owner? I don't want to see it. I'm just ready for Cage to move on and do what he needs to do. If this is leading up to Cage being taken out of the tournament and replaced by Chavo, travesty. That will be my fail of the season if that's the case. So yeah, that's my fails. Live chat has no fails. So yeah, that's it. This series, as well as the rest of the podcast released through fanstalkpodcast.com, are supported exclusively by our Patreon subscribers. And you can subscribe to today For as little as $1 a month, receive early access to our content, as well as get your ears and eyes on some exclusive content that we produce throughout the month. Thank you for listening to Fans Talk Lucha, and yeah, my name is Garvin. We'll see you next week. Adios.